This winter has been tough, hasn't it? I don't know about you, but I've looked out of the window every morning from what seems like the start of the year, and every day has just felt grey and rainy and oppressive. The sun just hasn't really been out that much, and it feels like it's just taking a long while to get to spring this year. I've noticed my mood, and I'm sure you have too, has just been a bit depressed recently. It's often around this time of year that we can really start to struggle with our mental health, because we've gone through Christmas, we've gone through that that New Year's excitement, and then we get into the drudgery of January and February, and it really starts to take its toll, doesn't it? That grey weather, the cold, the lack of light, the lack of sunshine. And we can start to get trapped in our own heads about it. I know for myself, I certainly find that I fall into this pattern, and you may well do too, where you just start to feel like nothing is really working. All of the effort you're putting into life, just when am I going to see results? When is the sun going to shine again? Much like the weather outside. And we get stuck in these thought cycles, and when we feed into them, it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, really. It's a self-fulfilling cycle that we begin to let those grey and negative thoughts get into our head and to spiral round. And we begin to believe those thoughts because they're persistent in our head. We think that they must be true. And when we start to believe those thoughts, we start to give in to that doubt, to that sense that what is it all for? What is the point of even trying in life? I'm not going to get anywhere. I'm not going to be anything. I'm not going to grow. I might as well just stay where I am and be comfortable. But we get in our heads about these doubts, and it can be really difficult to break yourself out of them. I know for myself that when I get into these thought loops, it can be incredibly difficult to, and I see that light at the end of the tunnel, I guess. We almost have to wait for something to come along to jolt us out of those doubtful spirals that we find ourselves in. But I want to offer you today a bit of a different way of looking at this, and hopefully it will help you next time you find yourself in one of these thought loops. As I've certainly found that it's helped me to pull myself out and to escape from them. And that is to have a record of those times that you've gone through before. So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by having a record? Well, when you find yourself in those cycles of doubt and of just generally negative thinking, I find that writing them down, journaling, and just getting my thoughts out onto the page really helped me to get some clarity on where I'm at. But by having that record, I can often look back and see patterns over similar periods of time, often January, February, where I notice that I get in these mindsets. And often I can see that actually the mindset that I was in was more to do with the weather, for example, than it actually was anything that I was doing in my life at the time. And when you start to identify these patterns, you start to identify when you get stuck. Perhaps it's after something doesn't quite work out the way you wanted it to, or you're not seeing the results that you want. It's very easy to drop into those patterns. But when you have this record of seeing when you've been in these cycles before, and you can look back and see that actually, there was some light at the end of the tunnel. There was a way out. I did come out of this before. I may be suffering with the same problem, but I'm kind of circling it from a higher plane, if you will. A higher rung on the ladder, or a higher branch in the tree. You've climbed further than you think. You've done more than you think. You've achieved more than you think. You're further down the road than you think. But until you actually reflect, until you look back on that, and until you have a record to see, actually, I have come along. I have come a long way. It's very difficult to kind of set yourself free from those doubtful thoughts. And don't get me wrong, this, it isn't a cure-all. It's not going to instantly make you better. These things take time. These things take consistency, dedication, and openness as well. Openness to see that, those thoughts you have in your mind, they're not always true. You don't always have to interact with them or believe them. It's not so much that you are trying to get rid of those thoughts, because they're still going to come. You're going to go through periods of doubt. You're going to end up in those cycles. But it's about being able to recognize when you are in those situations, and then giving yourself the tools to identify with that doubt and see, where is that coming from? Why am I feeling this way? And what can I do to get out of it? What can I look back on perhaps and see, where see how far I've come? Or perhaps I might want to look forward into the future and just start to imagine things as if they go really well, rather than, imagining them going badly. And you'll find that just by doing those simple things, you actually, by reflecting on your past and seeing where you have overcome these doubts before, and then imagining your future and seeing, imagine the future without these doubts, and see what you want to become, where you want to get to. Imagine yourself in that place. And you'll find that it can really start to affect your present. It can start to affect how you feel. Those voices of doubt that you have in your mind, they aren't quite as loud anymore. And from that, you'll be able to just sail your ship through those periods of doubt a little easier and a little steadier than you did before. One of the best ways I find of keeping that ship steady, of having that foundation to rely on in life, is just to build a really simple foundation or a root system of habits that are going to support your growth in your life. And journaling is one of those. It's one of the habits that I like to do on a regular basis, and I recommend to everyone as well, because I've just found it to be so transformational. As an overthinker, you can't really beat journaling for clearing up your thoughts. And if you want to find out a bit more about how to build journaling as well as some other healthy habits into your life to give you that foundational system that will help you to, buffet against some of these, negative thought loops we can find ourselves in, then check out the link in the description. There's a short ebook that just gives a brief overview of the habits I recommend and how to start to get building those in your life. And then if you want to take it a bit deeper and work with me, I also offer a course on how to build those habits into your life in a really transformational way, but also in a sustainable way as well. I don't want you burning yourself out by trying to do 1,000,001 different things at the same time, because I've been there before. I've tried that and it doesn't work. So it's a sustainable system that will help you to get where you're trying to go in life. So as I say, links in the description, check them out. Thanks ever so much for watching. Take care. God bless.